I'm Trevor Williams with Global Atlanta, and we're here with Ambassador Urs Ziswiler of Switzerland. Mr. Ziswiler, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Why don't you just explain to us what brings you here today to Atlanta?
The main reason, obviously, is the event we have together with Georgia Tech and local partners. Very happy to be back in Atlanta again. It's after New York, the town in the U.S. I visited most since I'm in Washington, D.C. So it's great to be back.
You've been here for a few years now?
It's my 4th year.
Okay.
I'm in the U.S. and obviously in Washington.
Mm-hmm. Well, here today you're here to talk about transportation, and I was wondering if you could just talk about the roots of the Swiss system and how Switzerland has gone about building this network of different transportation modes.
Yes, Switzerland is famous for its trains, obviously, and especially also for the punctuality of the trains. Our watch manufacturing industry is world famous, and if you want to put your watch straight, the best is go to a train station and look if the train is departing on 7:02, and if the train leaves, you can be sure it's 7:02. So yes, we have a long tradition of train building, but the idea behind is because it's a very mountainous and country with many remote areas, that we have to be linked with one another. And if you are linked with public transportation systems, that means also that not only tourists can go there, but also economic development is guaranteed, and that's basically the idea behind.
Mm-hmm. Can you compare a little bit the Swiss and the U.S. systems of transportation?
Well, it's difficult to compare two countries of so different size. I mean, if we would flatten the Alps, maybe we could compare. But the fact is that it's a small country, which is comparable to a state like Georgia, maybe. So that would be a fair comparison. But the big difference is that transportation system in the U.S. is basically based on the car, on highways, where transportation system in Switzerland and many other European countries is basically based on the train. So that is certainly a big difference between our two countries.
That's something that we've talked about a lot in Georgia. There have been a lot of different plans put forth and studies done on how we can get commuter rail throughout the state. And it seems to always run up against a variety of interest groups talking about, posturing for different aspects of the system. But I was just wondering, how has Switzerland gone about getting everyone on the same page, especially in a country that's known for, individual freedom, especially within the cantons that are somewhat like our states?
Yeah, I think it's in the interest of everybody, especially when you are a small country, that you're not strangled by traffic. And when you look at the referendum which asked the citizen to decide if he wants the freight on the trail or on the truck, and he decided we have to put it on the rail, because otherwise we will have in our alpine valleys we will have bottlenecks, lines of trucks who cannot pass. So it's a better idea to put the freight on the rail, and there we have something in common. I think here a lot of freight is also going on the trains and on the rail, but we have a popular decision. We do not want more roads, we want more trains, and that's why we are building the biggest tunnel in the world, another one under the Alps, with the idea that the transport has to go onto the rail, away from the roads, because otherwise we are strangled in our small alpine valleys.
Does this have to be a public initiative, you think? Does the government have to kind of take the leading role? Does it need to build support first from the people and then start with the investment? How does that work?
It needs both. And as the word public transportation says, without public support, that means by the government and finally by the population, and in a direct democratic system as we have it, it's the people at the end who decides. Public transportation can only be financed at the origin with a strong public support, because it's a long-term investment. It's an infrastructure investment which goes for generations. So it's maybe less attractive for a private investor because he doesn't see the return on investment immediately. So it is ideally it's a private-public partnership, but the original push has to come from the public side and, of course, supported by the people.
And how has your transportation network, especially the well-developed network of rails, how has that facilitated trade with your neighbors?
Yeah, we are in the heart of Europe, and basically the south-north transit goes through Switzerland. That means France, Italy, and Germany are linked through the Alps, and a lot of that transport goes through Switzerland. So it's in all our interest as well to have not only this transport going through Switzerland, but the best way. And we think the best way is on the rail and not on the roads, because otherwise we just would have one traffic jam from Germany until Italy.
So it seems like Georgia could kind of adopt that concept as being kind of the center of the Southeast, some would argue. Do you think that's something that can be applied?
Well, I'm always hesitating to teach lessons to others. Everybody has to define his own system based on his own history. But certainly, Georgia, as many other parts of the U.S., would be perfectly well it would be perfectly well to use a rail system, because it's a relatively easy geography. It's flat. If I compare how much tunnels we had to build to have our rail system, it would be much easier in Georgia. And I mean, we are in a time where environmental friendly and environmental policies is so important, climate change and everything. And our rail system is 100% electrified, so it is clean energy. And we are taxing heavily the road traffic. On a gallon of gas, you pay $3 taxes, and part of those taxes are used to build train systems. And that is not only a government decision, but it is a popular referendum decision to have it done like this. So because it makes sense for the average citizens to do so.
So how would we, in an area where we're not accustomed to trains, how do we go about building that groundswell of public support? I mean, a $3 tax on gas seems like it wouldn't go over too well here.
Well, it takes time, it takes conviction, it needs politicians who come to the conclusion that it's the most cost-efficient, environmental friendly system, and of course you cannot change it from one day to another. But I think it starts as well in the United States, and especially in the big towns. If you stay hours and hours in traffic jams, maybe you come to the conclusion that's not the best way to handle traffic. And especially mass transportation in towns are much more efficient if you use efficient public transportation. I give you an example. Zurich, our biggest town, 58% of the households do not own a car. Not because they cannot afford to buy a car, but because they use the public transportation system. It's much faster. They would not find parking spots and etc. So they use the tram, the bus, the metro, the S train, etc., etc.